The following review may contain minor spoilers to the anime Clannad and its second season Clannad After Story, involving character motivations, as well as the end of Season 1 to explain the premise of Season 2. You've been warned. There comes a time while watching anime when you will finish watching a particular show and be in a sort of euphoria. The journey that the show took you on was extraordinary. You felt an attachment to the characters, like you were actually inside of the world that was presented to you, and it was an experience that you may find hard to describe. But now that it is over, you don't know what to do. You look around. People are moving on, oblivious to the things you have seen and the world that you have experienced. If you know of what I speak, then you know what it is to finish a truly great anime. But not just anime, you can get this feeling from any kind of show, as long as it speaks to you somehow. The story could be about time travel, a mystic world in an alternate universe, or a land beyond your imagination or comprehension. But sometimes that story can be a lot simpler, a kind of story that you've seen many a time before, but perhaps not in this particular way. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and welcome to Glass Reflection. Today we will be talking about an anime that is very close to my heart. Yes, today I am talking about Clannad, and Clannad After Story. Clannad is the final third in what I refer to as the Key Kyoto Ani Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity is a series of key visual novels that have been adapted by Kyoto Animation, those visual novels being Air, Canon 2006 version, and now Clannad. All of which sharing a surprising amount of similarities with each other, such as art styles that have characters' eyes being as big as their hands, character traits borderlining on the completely fantastical, and plot lines not entirely realistic, from mystic curses to shape-shifting females. And above all, they all have moments that will make you sad and depressed as fuck. So, the story of Clannad specifically is not too much different from your typical visual novel. You have your main male protagonist, in this case Tomoya, who over the course of the series becomes surrounded by a group of females, all with different traits, personalities, and, well, problems. Oi! It ends up being Tomoya's job to become a figurative wizard and solve all the problems so that everyone is happy. But that's a problem. As some of you may know, in visual novels you have to make choices. These choices lead you down several paths, usually one for each major female. And you follow these paths to reach the perfect happy ending with that specific girl. But in the visual novel, you can only focus on one girl at a time, and then you have to restart from the beginning. In this adaptation, however, Tomoya can only have one girl by the end of it, and so the stories change to accommodate this fact. This changes romantic plot lines into ones where they just become friends. And you know, this is fine depending how much of the original story relied more on the romance, or if there were some other elements upon which it could focus. In other words, sometimes it worked, other times, not so much. Let's go in order of the arcs without spoiling too much, shall we? Starting off the list is Fuko. Fuko is a young girl obsessed with starfish. No, I'm serious, she's really obsessed with starfish. But she's a girl on a mission, and that mission is to attempt to get as many people as possible to her sister's wedding. So Fuko carves out wooden starfish as invitations and hands them out to as many people as possible before the fateful day. One problem though. As time passes, people seem to forget about Fuko and her starfish, like she was never there, like she never existed.
んにちは。
こんにちはじゃない。
Next up is Kotomi, an exceptionally quiet girl who has grades that far surpassed her peers, although she is heavily lacking in social skills. She spends the majority of her days alone in the library, and it isn't until Tomoya stumbles across her one day that she gets more socially active, and Tomoya becomes one of her first friends. But she has a past that she wants to forget about, an event that changed her life from then on, one that she does not want to face. We also have Tomoyo, a figurative ice queen, rumored to have once been the leader of a gang outside of the school, and her prowess in fighting does nothing to dispute that. Although she appears like a complete and total ice queen, she is actually very kind-hearted, working towards the noble goal of becoming student council president in order to stop the demolition of the nearby sakura trees, to which she has a personal attachment. But unfortunately, she also has a history that she cannot walk away from. One that may end her plans before she even has a chance to enact them. Then there are the twins, Kyo and Ryo. Kyo is an overreactive tsundere with a bad habit of unnecessarily causing physical violence, usually to a hilarious degree. Her sister happens to have a very obvious crush on our main protagonist Tomoya, but is unfortunately the extremely shy character of the series and does not know how to properly express her feelings. Even though she is helped along by her sister, who may or may not also have feelings for him. Admittedly, neither of the twins get a proper arc in the series, almost to the point of being delegated to the supporting character role the entire time. Thankfully, she, as well as Tomoyo, happen to get their own bonus OVA episodes at the end of each season in which the regular storyline is forgotten and Tomoya becomes their boyfriend. It's sort of a what-if scenario to pad out what had to get cut from the visual novel in the main storyline, because in the main storyline, we have the final female protagonist, Nagisa.
もしよろしければ、あなたをお連れしましょうか。この町の願いが叶う場所に。
Although she does not look or act like it, Nagisa is older than the rest and is repeating a grade, having a history of poor health that causes her to be absent from school for long periods of time, so much so that she becomes unable to graduate. But she lives on regardless, and, with the help of Tomoya, works towards her goal of restarting the school's drama club and putting on a performance for the yearly school festival. Out of all the females, Nagisa is the one with the most screen time, though not always in the spotlight. This allows her story to be the most fleshed out, and Nagisa herself becomes heavily involved with Tomoya in the other girls' arcs to help give her a fair bit of character development because they want you to get emotionally attached to her. The more attached you are, the worse it hurts when they hit you over the head with the metaphorical baseball bat later on. The supporting characters also deserve mention, from Nagisa's parents, Fuko's sister, and of course, Tomoya's best friend Sonohara, who spends the entire show as the comic relief punching bag, making idiotic statements that usually have him heavily beat up for the amusement of all. But when comparing Clannad to other Kyoto Ani works such as Canon, I do have to admit that where the story and characters are concerned, I do prefer Canon in a lot of ways. But Clannad has one thing that makes it so much better. One of the main problems I have with most romantic anime is how far they are willing to take the main story. When the romance is only a side plot, you are lucky if the characters even get together, let alone do anything together as a couple. And even when the romance is a focal point, you might only get a kiss. Beyond that, though, yeah, not happening. Those shows spend so much time getting their characters to first base that by the time they're there, the show's over. But that, my dear people, is where Clannad becomes glorious. Clannad After Story is quite literal in its title in that it takes place after the regular story. Most of the main characters from the first season have graduated from high school, found jobs, and go about living their life. And it is the story of the trials and tribulations of life beyond high school. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because usually you don't see this sort of continuation. Normally, nothing exists beyond high school. Hell, even when you're dead, you go back to high school, or the dead come to you. Either or. So because of this, all the female characters of the original season are out of the way, and Tomiya and Nagisa can begin their lives together. They move in, Tomiya gets a job, they do other things, and everything is fine and dandy. But that all helps tie into the saddest second half of any anime ever. Well, so far anyways. If you've watched either Air or Canon before, then you should know that sadness in these particular shows is standard fare. Although, unlike Air and Canon, who just hit you once with the metaphorical baseball bat of emotion, After Story does not know when to stop hitting you. So much so that the only people who are going to be able to survive its emotional onslaught are people with the heart of a brick or people who are just plain dead. Well, that is being a little unfair. There are reasons as to why someone might not get emotionally attached to this show. The character designs for Clannad are par for the course considering the show's genre as well as Kyoto Animation's history for heavily moe-infected characters. I would argue, however, that in terms of design, the characters are another thing that Canon did better. Though this is more so a fault of the original character designers for the visual novel rather than anybody at Kyoto Ani. And I do realize that there is only so much you can do with characters who are all supposed to be wearing the same school outfit. But seriously, having 3 characters with slightly different shades of purple hair? Come now, you can do better than this. Where Clannad does completely shine, however, is in the actual animation department. While for the majority of the show, the animation can be considered standard fare, though obviously with Kyoto Animation's usually high production value, interspliced with the regular story of Clannad is a second, almost side story, involving a young girl and a small robot in a world without people. These sections themselves do eventually lead to a resolution that does relate to the main plot in the end, but it's the animation of these particular scenes that far exceed that of the rest of the show. And I would argue that it is some of Kyoto Anim's best animation work to date. Suck it, K-On! That's right, I said it. What you gonna do? Like most key adaptations, or rather like all key adaptations, the music was done by Jun Mueda. As such, most of the tracks are just reiterations of the original visual novel themes, and while good, and do happen to fit the scenes that they're placed in, none of them really stand out. For the most part, anyway. The exceptions are, of course, the openings, endings, and one of my favorite songs titled The Girl's Fantasy, which is usually played during the aforementioned girl and robot scenes, and then again near the end of the series in some of the more emotional scenes of the show, helping to perfectly encapsulate the emotional roller coaster that the show becomes. Now, the other problem I would have sound-wise would be the dub. Recall back to my thoughts on the Canon dub, where I stated that English voice actors have a very hard time with moe characters, and they just don't sound right in those roles. While Air was able to sidestep this problem for the most part with the help of Monica Rial and Lucy Christian, Clannad had this problem coming right back full tilt.
Hey, Tomoya Okazaki!
Sister, what is it?
Uh-oh.
You have got some nerve picking on my little sister, you flea brain! I'm gonna beat you!
Jeez, will you relax? I was only talking to her.
That's right, sis. He wasn't picking on me.
Oh, in that case...
Although thankfully, unlike Canon, there are some notable performances. Lucy Christian and Hilary Hagg as both Nagisa and Fuko respectively are great examples of moe done well in English. Everything beyond that, though, is hit or miss depending on your tastes. And I would also like to point out the other problem I had dub-wise. I know that I am not one for pronouncing Japanese names or words correctly, something which many people tell me constantly. But when I spend who knows how many hours watching this show in Japanese multiple times, and I hear characters pronounce a specific name, Nagisa, when I switch to the dub, it is very annoying to me when I instead hear Nagisa. They're putting the emphasis on the incorrect syllable, and it's frustratingly annoying. Now I do know how people feel when I get the names wrong. So I suppose you could add this dub to a list of dubs from Sentai Filmworks that I don't particularly care for. Although so far that list includes all of them. I'm blaming Stephen Foster for this one, but that's just me. I find it hard to believe that it's the fault of the actors when most of them have done exceedingly well in other dubs. There are some that would argue that the combination of Clannad and Clannad Afterstory creates one of the greatest romantic dramas that we have ever seen in anime, and in some respects, I'm inclined to agree with them. It dabbles into a side of relationships that very few, if any, other romantic anime dare to tread. And it does so with such a skill to keep us invested in these characters, while ripping our hearts out from our chests. Foom foom, foom foom. Clannad is not perfection, however. Early on, specifically in the first season, Clannad has a very hard time breaking away from its visual novel roots, placing focus singularly on each female character in order while throwing the rest of them out of the spotlight. Specifically with Nagisa, who is stuck in a supporting character role for the majority of that season, regardless of the fact that she is the main female lead. Aspects of the character designs can be a bit much for some people, and if you want and or expect a show that is entirely based in reality without any supernatural or fantastical elements, then you are definitely not going to be enjoying the show to its full potential. But just bring a tissue box with you when you watch it, and know that everything is going to be alright. You will get through this. I believe in you. Now, the ending of the show may not be what you hope it to be, and I even know some people who are right turned off by it. Although, considering many aspects of the original visual novel ending were dependent heavily on mechanics of visual novels, that's not entirely surprising. It's not a clean-cut ending, but to me, it was satisfying. So much so that the ending of Clannad Afterstory was the ending to help me solidify my belief that the ending of any particular show is paramount. And hopefully, when you watch it, you will agree. With all that in mind, I have meticulously calculated the values for the categories of story, characters, animation, sound, and my own personal enjoyment, after which locking it into an endless time loop with the purpose of gathering happiness from all the various could-have-beens leave me awarding Clannad and Clannad Afterstory with a combined score of 9.44 out of 10, and rating this series certified frosty. A rating for only the best of the best, and those shows too important to ignore. At the time of this video, Clannad is not available for legal streaming, however it has been licensed and is available from Sentai Filmworks, though I will admit their particular release of the series has not been, shall we say, of the best quality. But the show itself is worth having, and supporting the creators is always the best option, even if you end up using fan subs when you actually watch the show. For alternate anime recommendations, besides the obvious other Holy Trinity titles, Air and Canon 2006, I also recommend the romantic dramas Toradora and EF Tale of Memories, both of which have their moments of emotional torment and also stand as some of the best in their genre. And with that, I leave you. After 4 years, 3 websites, and 100 videos. Ladies, gentlemen, and others, my name is Arcada, and this has been Glass Reflection. Until next time, stay frosty. Here's to 100 more.